Alright, I wasn't really anticipating making this video, but here we are. Should you read Fourth Wing and its series? Because, I have a soft spot for this series. It's really doing something that very few things have done for me lately, and, I figure I would like to talk about it and let you know if maybe it's worth your time, because I'm sure if you haven't picked it up yet, you might feel some sort of FOMO, or maybe you're like, no, I already know, I don't want to read this. But this series that I do on the channel, Should You Read, it's to help you figure it out, because, it's a money investment, it's a time investment, all of those things. So we'll start at the top with my experience, my feelings, because of course I'm going to be biased because I am a person who consumes art, and that is the only way to be. I feel like I'd never had to make that disclaimer before, but I had a comment on a Should You Reads from like eons ago where it was just insane. It was an insane comment. So just know, this is my opinion, which means it's therefore bias. You will have a different opinion because that's how we engage with art. So my experience is I read Fourth Wing actually the weekend of my wedding when I got stranded in the Panama City airport. All right. It was not a fun time. It's really one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me. Like, you really couldn't make a rom-com about it more. I'm traveling to Colombia. We're stuck in Panama City overnight. I am sleeping under my wedding dress. It's a time. But what I can tell you is Fourth Wing, it was an engaging time. I really enjoyed reading it. It's the only thing that stopped me from going a little crazy. And then I read Iron Flame, and I read that when we were getting ready to move to Ohio. It was started strong, it didn't end strong for me, personally. I was definitely on the lukewarm side of Iron Flame, but I still was like, going to read Onyx Storm. Now, was I going to read Onyx Storm right away? No. But then my friends are like, it's almost time for Onyx Storm, are you going to read it? And I'm like, I guess I'll make time. And so I got the book, and I read it. And I also had 2 snow days. So I was like, I have snow days because we got stupid cold here. I will read Onyx Storm. I will listen to the audiobook while I knit. I'll have the Kindle. We'll see what happens. And I had so much fun with Onyx Storm, but not for the same reasons I had fun with Fourth Wing. But at the same time, kind of the same reasons. There is a cozy, nostalgic quality to this series that works really well for me. It reminds me of how I felt reading things that I read younger, and like things that are now problematic, that like I don't want to go back and read Harry Potter, but I miss kind of the school setting that evoked in me, all of the side characters that you don't get to know really well, but they provide a good ambiance. I like toxic romantasy. I don't know what to say. I know it's wrong. I don't vote for these types of relationship dynamics in real life, but I like them. They are entertaining, to say the least. And they remind me of a time in my life where I was in a really toxic relationship, and a lot of it was bad, but some of it was kind of fun. And so that's also why I can kind of get behind these things. And I can't really get behind a plot-driven story very often. That's usually one of my complaints, and you know that. Like, if you're plot-driven, if I say I have issues because the plot just kept going, maybe I should check that out. For me, the plot doesn't really make sense. The third book is a fetch quest. I should not like it. And I had so much fun. For some reason, this is a soapy, melodramatic time that engages me, that doesn't bore me for the most part, except for, like, Iron Flame. At the end of that one annoyed me. And so why does this work for me? Could it work for you, even if this is not like your standard thing? If you watch my channel, like if you found me just through the search algorithm, hey, I'm Angela, I don't typically read a lot of romantasy, not because it's not good, I just read more contemporary romance. And B, I usually read a lot of science fiction and fantasy, that one of the things I want is thematic richness, consistent world building, character development. Like, a lot of the tricks that happen in this series that I can see from a mile away should not work for me. Like the whole, oh, we're not going to kill that character, they're too important. We're going to kill this, cannon fodder character that we have, lifted up just enough to feel something, that emotional manipulation. Like, I know the tricks, and I don't care. I have so much fun. So yeah, let's get into it. What is Fourth Wing? What I would call it is a CW soap opera if it was a book about dragons and their writers in a weird school that makes no sense, with a classic adversity, enemies to lovers sort of trope. I don't know if it's truly enemies to lovers, like their families are definitely enemies, but I would feel hesitant to say true enemies, but they definitely are not friends to lovers. Like, definitely some animosity there. And The first book is so classic. It has so many of like the classic, most popular romantasy tropes that you have ever seen. Like dark brooding guy who's actually got a heart of gold, and our main character who's kind of just average, and if anything, I like Violet a little more than like the standard romantasy character, although she can wear on me. Because she like is supposed to be smart, and you can actually kind of see how she's clever, but she's really not the most clever individual around. But she at least like does things that I'm like, this was reasonable problem solving. But of course, she's going to be the most special person, you know, like classic. Like even her hair is different and stuff like that. She's going to get the most special dragon. Like she's going to be special, and that's okay. But she's also at least doesn't fall into not like other girls. And she has friends who are girls. Like it's not like this big thing. She's not special in that way per se. And it's just a rompy, campy, melodramatic soap opera time. Like nothing about this universe makes sense. Nothing about it. But we're at war. The end is nigh. We must learn how to ride dragons at this war school and also survive the world's war school. It doesn't really make sense. But I think what I can most describe it to is like when I watched Charmed, when I watched Buffy, when I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. It feels like those things. Okay? So if that's anything that you've ever remotely enjoyed, you might also feel how I'm feeling here. Now, I've already talked about the drama. This is like the selling point for me. It is top tier drama. And I don't read things for drama most of the time. Drama I usually love getting from my musicals. I love getting from my TV. Like one of the reasons I watched the Shadow and Bone TV show and didn't read it is like I really liked the drama in the TV show, but in a book I'd be sitting in it for too long. It worked so well. Like Xaden, who is our love interest, is the most melodramatic queen you will ever meet. Like, oh my god, the things he says, wild. It's truly wild. It might not work for you. The number of times he leans on a doorway, unmatched. I eat that up. I'm just like, yeah, I'm so there for it. It's just so funny and entertaining to me. I just can't. Like, especially in Onyx Storm, if you know, like, the twist at the end of Iron Flame. Oh, the broody boy. Oh, it's wild. It's very Angel from Buffy. Not quite as intense as some of the Angel trope, but it's like it's giving Angel. It's giving Edward Cullen. It's really funny. So I enjoy that. I don't know. The dragons are really melodramatic. They don't really make sense. And like the stakes. Are there stakes? I can't tell yet. I actually do not know how much plot armor actually exists, but there's quite a bit of it. Like there's quite a bit. So it's like it's funny because to me it's a fairly low stakes series because I feel pretty confident so far that like my characters are fine. Like things are happening, there are consequences, people have died. But I've read this type of series before. I'm really not expecting really big things that we can't undo eventually. And that's okay with me. Like I'm fine with that. I would like there to be more consequences if we're gonna keep pretending that there are stakes, but we'll see what happens. For now, I am cautiously entertained. Now, the writing style is, I think, something that people don't talk about enough, or the audiobook, because I think this is really well written for what it is. Now, is the pacing perfect? No, but pacing and momentum is going to vary from person to person. But from a sentence-to-sentence structure, it flows really easily. It doesn't take a lot of brain power. When you're reading this type of series, you do not want to be using your brain that much. You just want to be able to smoothly go from sentence to sentence. I have read books this past year that can't do this. It is actually a skill to make an engaging, paced story that you can just flow through. Now, the content of the sentences will not be perfect. And I'm sure there are some people who are like, I don't actually like that they lean on this type of grammar style, but that's not who I am. I'm not like a grammar person. I don't know what an M- is. Like, that's not why you watch my videos. But in terms of like, is the writing style a barrier? No. It's easy. It's breezy. I like the audiobooks because they're dramatic. You might not like them because they're dramatic. The person who narrates for Violet, sometimes she's like shouting. I don't know. But like she speeds up her voice when it's tense. She slows it down when she needs to. It doesn't have an awful voice for Xaden. I do still prefer to physically read it over the audio. But like I found that I liked the audio when it was more plot driven, and I liked physically reading it when it was more romance. And I think when I reread, I'll probably just all physically read it. I don't know, but I liked the audio. Like I truly did. So if you're an audiobook person, I think they're worth looking into. And I think this is like a really important reason why it's so successful, because yeah, it's a little bloated, but like not as bloated as even like Sarah J. Maas or Cassandra Clare these days. Like it reminds me of early Sarah J. Maas and Cassandra Clare's days, where it's like, yeah, sure, the book's 500 to 600 pages, but that's manageable and it's easy breezy time. Like I think that's part of the nostalgia for me. Now I've already talked about the romance tropes you're gonna find here, but like truly, if you cannot be entertained or do not like the toxic, you matter more than the world romance tropes, you should probably just like stay away. Because like that's the energy Xaden and Violet bring to the party. They are just like again, there are stakes. The world is ending. The end is nigh. But also, no, if someone kills you, I don't care. I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. And I know some people hate that. Like, I just know that this doesn't vibe with some people. I know some people who love that type of fantasy escapism because it's not real, right? It's a fantasy. That's not how people interact in the real world. That's not realistic. But it's a nice thing to think about. It's attractive. People do like that trope. I think it's fun to watch. Like, I am more in the I am entertained by their mess camp. And I don't find it obnoxious. I don't find it healthy, like at all. But I find it entertaining. And what I do appreciate is, for the most part, they have some interpersonal drama, especially in Iron Flame. There's some shit going on because Violet has issues. But for the most part, they communicate fairly well with each other. Like, it's toxic in terms of, like, the possessive nature of it all. But he's not the worst alpha hero we've ever had. Like, he's still an alpha hero, but he's not the worst by a long shot. And they talk to each other. And there's rarely a miscommunication trope, like a little bit, but it's really not that bad. So, like, a lot of the drama is through external factors. Like, I was really pleasantly surprised that, like, a lot of our stress in Onyx Storm was not between them two, because I think that's why Iron Flame was frustrating for me. I'm just like, Violet, I need you to get over this. Like, that's how I felt in Iron Flame. Like, I need you to move past it. Not because you shouldn't have these standards, but because I'm so tired of you thinking about it. Like, I just can't. So that's partially why Iron Flame doesn't work for me as well. Now, again, the negatives. This world building. It does not make sense. Okay? Do not poke it. I mean, you can. If you want to have fun poking it, go ahead. Like, that's okay. I'm just letting you know that I know it doesn't make sense. Okay? Now, I do actually think, like, it's kind of fun to read if you want to engage with the world building, because you have to wonder, why did the author make the choices that they made? Like, I was discussing the magic system a little bit with someone, because you learn a little bit in Iron Flame about the magic, about, like, how one can find sources to the magic and what it does to the person. I'm like, I wonder why this is. Is it just to be very, like, light side versus dark side, or is there more to it? And I think I was making connections that maybe the author hasn't made, but it was fun to think about. And I think here's what's interesting. None of it makes sense, but have I looked outside? Nothing makes sense out there either. So I'm wondering, it's like, you know, we put it on this standard of, like, you know, government systems should make more sense. True. So sometimes I'm like, are we putting it on a standard higher than our real world at times? But at the same time, like, truly, it's like the logic of things. It's like, I don't really get it. And sometimes the plots are just there to put people in different places for different scenarios. Like, Onyx Storm is just a fetch quest. Like, we're just trying to go places to find things. I don't know if we accomplished anything in that last book. I just know I had fun. So I'm not overthinking it. But, you know, it's one of those things where the plot, it's kind of just there to move people around. I'm sure there are more efficient ways to do what we're doing. The first book's really fun because you're kind of we're going through school plot tropes, and I really like that. It's like, we're going to class, and then we have this thing coming up, and then we have trials, and we have these, like, I really enjoyed that. We have the war games. Like, that was really fun for me. It really did remind me of what it felt like when I used to read Harry Potter as a kid. Like, it truly, like, it's not the same, but that's how I felt. And I think Iron Flame, it struggled because the first half had a plot that made sense to me, and then the second half has a plot that makes sense to me, but I didn't like that they were smushed together. And then the third book, the fact that it all had, like, at least one goal. Did we accomplish the goal? I don't know. But I think that felt a little more streamlined. So even though we were just, like, literally hopping around trying to find stuff, it worked for me. And I like the banter. I don't actually care about any of the side characters, except that I actually enjoy the banter. Every book, I'm like, who are you? This book was no different when I read Onyx Storm. Like, who are these people? Who is Imogen? Who is Ridoct? Who is Sawyer? Like, I got there. I would also say that the world building is also bad because it just heavily relies on words and names from a culture that I do not think this author has put any research into. There are so many Celtic names. And I mean, I don't even know, are some Celtic or some Welsh? I don't know because I don't know a lot about those cultures and their names. I only learned because I was trying to look up how to pronounce Imogen, which I don't even know if I'm saying it right. But it's just, this is a thing that happens a lot in fantasy world building where it's just like, you want something to sound fantasy, so you do this. So I hate all the names. I hate them a lot. I can't even remember the name of this series. Is it the Empyrean? I don't know. It's just really lazy, which is also reminiscent of Harry Potter. So there's a big nostalgia blend here for me. But I enjoy it. I have fun. Is it a favorite series of all time? No. But sometimes I want a popcorn read, and I don't really know how to find my popcorn reads. It's kind of hard for me as a reader. And so the fact that this works, and the fact that in a couple years, when the 4th book comes out, I can just reread the series, and I'm going to have fun, and I know I'm going to have fun. I'm excited. I'm excited for it. So if you have been curious and have at all any overlap in this weird subgenre of fantasy to me, you should give it a go. With all the caveats that I did not tell you it was a quality time. I told you it was a good time. All right. Let me know your thoughts, spoiler free, down below. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave a dragon. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.